भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So we saw last time that first Lord Krishna makes the statement that there is no cause for sorrow, okay? And that there is no cause for sorrow is not something which is an advice. It is not that, oh, you should not be sad. It's not that, okay? He says that Panditaha, the people who know the reality, they are the ones na anushojanti. Okay? They have no sadness out of what they understand of what is the nature of I. Okay? And because here in this context, Arjuna's main concern was killing all his people, not only the loved ones but also all the soldiers. Okay? So therefore he starts by saying that if you think that you are killing them, then this is not the reality. Okay? He says that there was never a time that I was not, and never the time that I will cease to exist. Then you may think that Lord Krishna is somebody who is very special, and therefore he was not born and he will not die. But immediately after that he said, there was never a time, Arjuna, you were also not born and you will never die. Okay? And then he points out to everybody else, and Janadhipa, and everybody who is right in front of you, whose killing that you are right so concerned about, there was never a time that they were not, and there will never be a time that they will cease to exist. Okay? So that means that the I or the Atma, he is saying, is not subject to birth and death. Okay, that is what it means. Atma is I of everyone, is not subject to birth and death. Okay, now that seems so contrary to what we think about ourselves. Okay, so we think of ourselves as what? Mortals. Okay, if somebody lives 100 years, you think that wow, this is great. You know, the person has lived a very full life. But in the countless flow of time, what is 100 years? It's peanuts. Okay? So therefore, our whole definition of who we are and who the person, what is the nature of human being, what is the nature of I, is what? Subject to death. Okay? Now, so therefore, we need to re-examine if I is something which is your nature, right? I is not something which is away from you, then you need to re-examine what is your nature. Okay? So generally what happens is that when people study Gita, they somehow understand that Atma is Amar. Amar means it is not subject to death, and that's it. And then they move forward. Okay? But if Atma is you, it is available for you to understand how you are not subject to birth and death. So that means it requires a certain teaching, it requires a certain inquiry. You can't just pass and say, okay, Atma is not subject to death, right? Because Atma is here and now for everyone. So that means it becomes a verifiable reality if you understand what Lord Krishna is saying. Okay? So therefore, the inquiry starts with what is my nature? Okay? So that means Lord Krishna has a different vision of what Atma is. But if he starts talking about what Atma is, okay, then we are stuck with our notion of what Atma is. So like a good teacher, he starts with what we think we are, and he goes on negating what it is not, and then reveals what it is. Okay, Because if otherwise, he will say one thing and you believe in something else and you don't understand. Okay, so therefore he starts with saying that why do you think that you are subject to birth and death? Okay, naturally you say that you are subject to birth and death because we all know what, that I have a birth date. Okay, whatever, some May 1965, 1967, so that means I have a birth date. Okay, and also then dash dash dash, and then maybe there will be another date. Okay, and because of this fact I conclude that I am subject to birth and death. Okay, so when I conclude I am subject to birth and death, that means where is my identification? Where do I put my I? In the body. Body is born. Nobody is denying that the body is born. Okay? Nobody is denying that the body is born. Body is born. Okay? But I am as good as the body is my conclusion. Okay? Now how accurate
body is?
I is something which is my conclusion. Right? So this is why you need to examine what is your relationship with the physical body. So the relationship with physical body is what? That the body itself is something like everything that you objectify, this physical body is also something that you objectify. Okay? So that means it is not the subject, it is what? It's an object. Okay? Then if you see what exactly is this body, so that means different conditions of the body, they come and go. Once you are feeling very well, next day you are having a stomach ache. But everything passes, and who are you?
Observer.
You are the observer, right? Nothing sticks to you. Everything, all the different conditions come and go. If that was you, it will stick to you at all different given point in time, but it doesn't stick to you, right?
Same as the sorrow or
exactly.
Happiness.
Absolutely. Right? It doesn't stick to you, so that means that you are observing, so it is an object and you are what? The observer. You are the subject which observes different conditions of the body. Okay? So now where is a mix-up? Why do you think
You
that
identify
emotion? Exactly. So
You
that means the mix-up is what is an object, I take it as what? The nature of the subject. Okay? And why does that happen? Because you do have a special relationship with one body. Even though I objectify all these different bodies, I don't take I to be any of those bodies. I take I to be only one body. Right? Why? Because I have a special relationship with one body. Okay? So that means when your stomach aches, it doesn't do anything to me. Right? But when my stomach aches, I can observe. So therefore, there is no doubt that you have a special relationship with one body. Okay? But because you have a special relationship with one body, it is I is a wrong conclusion. Okay? Among all the different cars, you have only one car, which is your car. Okay? So there is a special relationship. Okay? But you don't start taking car as I. But in this case, you start taking the conditions of the body as what? My nature. And this is a mistake. Okay? So this is where you first have to understand, and then if you look into what exactly is the body, okay, the different conditions and different states that take place, it's actually nothing but cells. Nothing but cells. Billions of cells coordinating every second in a way that right now I can look at and talk to all of you. I can see you. Okay? At the same time, my digestive system is going on, my respiratory system is going on, my circulation is going on, then I can hear some kitchen noises. Everything is happening, but it's all nothing but what? Coordination of cells. Amazing coordination. Okay? but the fact remains that one cell, can you say it is I? No. Cell you can even see under a microscope, right? So if one cell is not I, then all the different cells put together, does it become I? No. Right? Just logic. Therefore, this body is what? My conclusion that I am a mortal, I am subject to death, is because I think I am as good as the body. I have a special relationship with body, no doubt. Okay? But I am the body is a wrong conclusion. Okay? So that is something that you have, Lord Krishna says that you are not just one little entity here which is the body. Okay? Then the second thing that we have most identification with, like where I say that who are you? Okay? So we think what? I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm feeling compassionate, I feel like I'm a caring person, or I'm a jealous person, or whatever. Okay? Now these are what? These are all characteristics of what? Emotions and different types of, I can think I'm intelligent, right? So these are all the characteristics of what we understood as Antahkarana. Antahkarana in Sanskrit, it means Antaha means internal, Karana is internal instrument. So you are given this instrument which is able to assess everything, and it is also able to what? See what is going on in the mind itself. Okay? Now, what is your relationship with the mind? Because all our problems, right? I'm dukhi, I'm sukhi, and these are all, I want to be sukhi. These are all when I make those statements, what is it that I'm doing? I am equating what? I with different thoughts, which are what? Emotions. Okay? So now let us see what is my relationship with emotions and every different thought that occurs. Okay? Each thought comes and goes. Okay? In one day, you have 60,000 different thoughts. Okay? Now, if I am the thought, then what will happen? Every thought that you have thought of will stick to you right now. Because whatever is your nature, you can't get rid of. Okay? The very fact that the thought comes and goes and you remain what? Observer. Who comes to know the coming and going of every thought. So that means what? You are what? The subject, and the thoughts are what? An object. Okay? So the objects come and go, the subject is the invariable. Okay? So therefore, again there is a fundamental mistake that we make. Okay?
Isn't, I mean, our identification with body may not be very strong, but our identification with thoughts and mind is very strong.
Very strong.
I mean,
Absolutely.
we really stick to
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
I mean, especially in terms of, as you say, I think I am intelligent, right?
Yes.
Or I am caring, or I am
Yes.
emotional, or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes, exactly. So we are not trying to abort that, right? The things are organized in a way that you have been given a brain and there are some thoughts. Okay? And the only problem is the thoughts are an object and you have taken them to be the subject. Okay? Subject I. And because of that there is suffering. Okay? Because what happens is most of the time, okay, the mind is in pain, sense of lack, you know, there is always at times when we look at our life, even though externally everything is going very well, okay, somehow there is some sense of inadequacy, some sense of some lack that is always there in us, okay, and that is all in terms of certain thinking that we have. Okay? So therefore, I suffer because of that mistake. Okay? So what I want to be is free from, right? All what? Everybody wants to be free from anger, free from, nobody wants to be free from emotion as such, but people want to be free from anger, people want to be free from pain, people want to be free from sadness, right? Fear. So these are all, what are they? They are all just thoughts, right? And what Lord Krishna is saying is highly liberating. He says, hey, look at the relationship of I with the thoughts. The thoughts come and go. The terrible nightmare, right, comes and goes. If it was your nature, what would happen? Right now, you would be terrified. Nothing sticks to you. Okay? That means that what you want to be free from, what? You're already free. Right? So this is what Lord Krishna is saying, that hey, you are suffering for no reason because you have made a mistake. You have taken
Made a
on the
mistake of
attributes, you have
perceiving.
taken the attributes of an object, okay, which is what? The objects which is a body and mind as what? Your attributes. Where I am already free from those attributes. You understand that? Ashojya nanvashojastva. Panditaha na anushojanti. Because there is a mix up, you take on what you want to be, what you already are. Right? You want to be free from fear, you want to be free from anger, you want to be free from sadness, okay? And you are already free because sadness comes and goes, pain comes and goes, anger comes and goes. Okay?
Okay, so when we are undergoing a pain or anger,
Yes.
what's the trick? Just sit back and relax and observe that.
Okay, one thing now, there is one thing which you need to know, the nature of mistake that we make. Okay, so that is the first part of Bhagavad Gita, which is Brahma Vidya. Makes you see what is your nature. Okay, but the thing is that once I tell you what it is, it doesn't mean that you understand everything very accurately. Okay, so there is a second part of Bhagavad Gita, which is what? Yoga Shastra, the growth. Okay, the growth which is necessary for you to hold this vision about what is the nature of I. Okay, and in that growth, you take care of your anger, you take care of your sadness as an individual. So there is a lot of discussion of how to do it. Right? So
Fine.
that
I'm
will
jumping.
come.
I'm
Yeah.
jumping.
So that will come. Okay. So right now you just need to know. Okay. Because why? What is the connection? That we will see. But I will tell you very briefly. Okay. So when I'm speaking the words right now, you have only your buddhi to understand what I'm saying. Okay. Now after this 1 hour, if I ask each one of you, what did I say? You will say some things which are similar, but each one will have one's own
Their
picture
own
of
story,
what
own
is what I said, right?
Yes, yes.
So that means when you are catching my words, okay, you are not catching them exactly accurately. You add your own meanings to it.
What
Okay,
you
we
have
understand
understood.
What you have. So that means you think you understand, but you have understood what you have given it a meaning. Right? So now that means there could be discrepancy between what the Shastra is saying and what you understand. Okay?
Absolutely.
Right? So that means if you really want to understand, you have to make a buddhi which is non-projecting buddhi. Okay? Which is able to understand accurately the meanings without projecting or creating your own meanings. Very, very critical.
Very, very,
Very
important.
critical, very, very important. Okay, so therefore, in small things in our world, if we cannot handle things accurately because we project a lot, okay, then if that is the nature of my buddhi, then how will it understand Vedanta, which is so subtle? Okay, so therefore, I need to prepare my buddhi so that it becomes what? Non-projecting. It becomes what? More objective, which is able to capture things as they are, so that when the words of Vedanta come to me, I understand their meaning what? Accurately, without distorting their meanings. So this is why personal growth is very necessary. Okay? But that is the subject matter of what? Yoga Shastra. And that will come. Right? So it will come. But first you just need to understand that why you are actually suffering, because there is an imaginary problem. There is no real problem. Atma is already free. The vision is not that Atma is bound and you have to do something to free it. The vision is Ashocha Nanvashochasto. There is no cause for sorrow, but you are suffering. Right? So that means then you have to understand that what is my nature. So this is where the inquiry takes place. Okay? Now, even though what we saw last time, that there are all these thoughts, okay, that take place in the mind, okay, and I objectify them and everything comes and goes, okay, still, as Pallavi said, my identification with mind is something which is so strong, right? And that is because these thoughts are not all just random thoughts. It's not like one thought and the next thought and no connection between the thoughts. So we saw that mind, even though it is all these 60,000 thoughts and billions of thoughts by the time we end our life, okay, still they follow a certain pattern. Okay. So what are those patterns we saw last time? There is one thing which is what we call manas. Manas is what? The emotions and sankalpa vikalpatmikaha mana. Okay. So that means that there are, it's a seat of emotion. Not only I observe a given event, okay, what happens? It creates a certain emotion in me. Okay, so that is the capacity of mind. We are not, please understand, we are not trying not to have emotions. Because the mind is designed in a way that it has all these faculties. We are not trying to be dispassionate and totally be disconnected with our emotions, not at all. Okay, it's a faculty, it has a given capacity to emote. And capacity to emote is something which is very essential for living. Okay? Why? Because you ask most of the children, okay, they suffer from one thing or the other because they feel what? Lack of love. Love is so essential. Expression of love. A proper expression of love is something which is critical to healthy living. Okay? So when we are talking about spirituality, please understand we are not talking about not having emotions, to be detached with the world, not at all. Okay? What we are trying to understand is there is a certain relationship between I and the emotions. The emotions come and go, right? And I am who? The observer, right, of all the different emotions. That is the first reality. Once I understand that, then I say, hey, then that emotion is no longer a problem, it becomes my privilege. Right? If I take myself to be the emotion, then there is a suffering. But if I understand I am the observer, then and emotions come and go, then what? That my capacity to emote becomes a privilege, right? And I am able to do it, what? Much more freely than before when I was bound. Okay? So in the case of love, okay, let's come back. So we are not talking about not expressing our love, but what happens is the love that we have at times what becomes control. Very common. Okay? When we don't have the distance, we don't understand the relationship of I with different emotions, what happens is that any person, in fact what you will find, that people you are closest to, that you love the most, that's where most of the relational problems are. So where is the problem? On one hand there is so much love, but on the other hand that same person becomes source of lot of problems. That means you are not able to express your love what? Appropriately. So what you need to do? You don't need to not have the feeling of love, but you need to what? Remove the distortions. No, distortions so that you can express it what? More appropriately. Okay, so I'll give you a simple example. Simple examples of how love becomes a control. Okay, when we were living in Bangkok, okay, so we were invited for one program, okay, where there was some kind of a function and some religious function it was, and the host wanted to show that even though they are living abroad, they have taught their children Gita. Okay, so this once there was some puja done, then she very proudly says, "Now I'm going to ask my daughter to chant some Gita chapter." Okay, now this girl is not at all interested. Okay, so she is not at all interested in chanting and standing up in front of all these big, her parents' friends and chanting, right? But her mother, it's her mother's need to show off, and they show off in the sense that show, so this almost drags her, okay, and then she comes very reluctantly, okay, and she's standing there, and then the mother says, "Okay, beta, stand straight," okay, so then she's standing straight, okay, then she starts chanting, very this thing, she starts chanting, no, chant slowly, right? So that people can understand. So by the time she has finished 2 sentences, she has already intervened twice. Once you stand straight. Second, you speak slowly. Then third, then when she starts the second shloka, she says, "Oh, pronounce it like this." Okay, so that means by the time she finished, she had intervened at least 5 or 6 times. Okay, correcting her daughter, because she wanted her daughter to be perfect. Okay, after she finished, what happened is everybody started clapping, and this girl started crying, and mother did not know why the child is crying. Okay, she had put so much pressure on the child, okay, and the child was going through hell, okay, but in her mind it was completely caught by
the standards.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so there was no match between the need of the child and what the mother is only operating from what she thinks is something which is good for the child, or she wants appreciation of the child. Exactly, right? Particularly when she wants to create. So this is where we see that when we have love, it all becomes control. How, without really, even we don't, the mother was totally oblivious when the child started crying. Mother had no idea why she was crying. She did not, because she was operating only from her standpoint. She completely failed to look at the needs of the child. Okay, so what we are trying to do, if you are spiritual, what you are trying to do is express your love in a healthy manner. Okay, take away all these distortions which actually destroy people. Okay, so this is what we are trying to do. We are not trying to be detached with the world. There is no such thing called detachment. Okay, you are connected to the world. The 3rd chapter of the Gita will show you how you are connected to the whole universe. Even if you want to detach yourself, you cannot. The very fact that you are drinking a glass of water, how many people have worked for it? How many people? Thousands of people. Okay? So there is no way. The world is made in a way that we are all connected to each other. And in fact, we have to act in a way that we make a difference. Generally, we only focus on ourselves, but if you understand you are connected, then your vision of what is your role in the entire scheme of things, it increases. Okay, so these are unfortunate ideas that are existing in the spirituality, detachment, no emotion. We are not talking about that. This is what I am saying, that Bhagavad Gita is not an advice. Lord Krishna is a teacher. He is showing what is what. When you understand what is what, your relationship with everything is it becomes healthy. Okay? It is like you're standing in front of a mirror which itself gives a distorted image. Okay? And it has what, there is a convex mirror and there is a concave mirror, and sometimes it makes you look very fat, right? And then you are trying very hard to slim down, but that image itself is not accurate. So your starting point is wrong, and you are trying to fix the problem with a starting point which itself is wrong. Okay? So what Lord Krishna is saying, hey, get the realities right first. Because keeping that distorted view, you are trying to solve the problem, there is no solution. Okay? So this is what it says, that the emotions are something that you observe. You are already free from every emotion that you have. That is the reality. Okay? Now the second thing that we have, which is what we call buddhi. Okay? What is buddhi? The thoughts is one type of thoughts are identified as manas. The other group of thoughts are identified as buddhi. What is buddhi? Buddhi is your cognitive capacity. Okay? Cognitive capacity means when I say 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, okay, you are processing it in your mind. Is it your emoting mind which is working? No. It's got nothing to do with your emotions at all. You just understand when you add 2 and then you add 2 other objects, it becomes 4. Okay? So that is what we call intellect. Okay? So that is intellect, and that is that is something which is so evolved in a human being, what, that it can figure out what, how old is the universe. Okay? It can figure out what is the whole thing of quantum physics, botany, the human body. It can figure out so many different things. That is an amazing capacity that we have, which is again nothing but through thoughts, but it is intellect. But even intellect, what is your relationship with the intellect? The thoughts with which you understand realities, do they stick to you? You have understood so many things about psychology. You have understood so many things about strategy. You have understood so many things about pharmacology. But do all these thoughts are sticking to you? No. Each of these thoughts has given you certain understanding and it has gone. Right? And what enables you to teach thou? Because they are stored in memory. So that is the third faculty that you have. Okay? Even though the thoughts come and go, you can retrieve the knowledge that you have learned. Why? Because you have memory. Okay? So this is what we call chitta. Okay? So the thoughts, it's highly complex. Don't think even though the thoughts are an object and you objectify, okay? But as Pallavi says, it is such a, it's such a strong identification we have with this nature of I, because these thoughts are extremely well organized. They perform a given function which is so sophisticated, okay? And you are so close to it that this mistake is done universally by everyone. Because of this arrangement.
Especially for teachers like us. A question is asked and
yeah. And you have to. See, it's an instrument, you can use it, right? It's something which is your asset and you have to use it. Just because it is not you, it doesn't mean that you have to be indifferent to it. In fact, your capacity to use it to the fullest extent is a lot more than when you are totally identified with it and you suffer from its limitation. It's actually completely different. Okay, so this is what we say. Chittam is another set of thoughts, but you retrieve certain facts related to the past and then you reproduce at this given point in time. Okay, so this is the third, and the fourth is what we call ahankara. Okay, what is ahankara? In Gujarati and in all these other vernacular languages, ahankara means ego, ego. But here in Sanskrit, in Vedanta, it is a technical word. Okay, it is a technical word. It's used. It's defined. It has a particular meaning. It is not nothing to do with pride, or it has got nothing to do with your sense of bigness. It's got nothing. That ahankara. Aham is I, and kara is the sense of I.
Sense of
I. Okay, so that means in your thoughts, when you, there is not only that there is sadness when you see something and you feel sad, okay, and then there is a feeling of sadness. What there is what? I am sad. So there is this I thought, right, which gets connected to the feeling of sadness. Okay, so that means there is an I thought, and then there is a feeling of sadness, and they both get connected. Okay, where you say I am sad. Okay, now the next minute you say I am happy. So that means it is again an I thought, and then there is a feeling of happiness, and your I thought gets connected to what? Happiness. Happiness. Okay, so that means this I sense. Then when you are in a class and you understand something, then what? You say, oh wow, I get it. Okay, or I am intelligent. Okay, so that means your I sense gets connected to what? The capacity of your buddhi. Okay, then your I sense also gets connected to what? All your memories. That's why you say, when I was young, this is how I was. Okay, so there are 4 functions in the mind. One is manas, the emotions. The second is the cognitive capacity. The third is the memory. And fourth is I sense. But this I sense is a particular sense because it gets connected to all the 3 different functions. And that's why it becomes one entity, as though it is one real entity. Right? Even though it's changing all the time. Once you're identified with your thoughts, which are emotions, next minute you're identified with your thoughts, which are your intellect. Then you're identified with your thoughts, which are memory. Okay? But they are all different I thoughts, and it gets connected to all these 3 different functions. So therefore, this I thought seems like a real entity, right? And that is something that you think is what you are.
You said aham is I. What is it? Kara means?
Kara
Do
is
it.
the sense of I. A sense of I. It is not really I. Okay? Any thought related to I thought. Okay? This is how we become a very, very, as though fixed entity. Okay? And a very continuous entity. Otherwise, each thought would be disconnected to the other, and you will not have that sense of I. Okay? But because of this ahankara, which gets connected to different thoughts, so it seems like one solid entity, even though it's changing all the time. Okay? So that means you are none of the things, none of the 4. Now this ahankara is something that how, because we have a very, very strong sense of I in this entity, okay?
Is it sense
So,
of identity?
this is sense of identity that we really, So,
Yeah. It's 2.
One AC we can switch
Is the AC remote around? Alright. That's
off. Thoughts and all you were saying, how to attribute and how to, when you have thought, I didn't get, I'm not able to tell you exactly, but I just wanted example if you can give of that, means how to detach from the thought or how to identify.
see, the thing is that you need not detach with the thought, because the thought, even if you want to attach yourself, how long will the thought last?
Yeah.
Tell me. You try to prolong a thought. How long will you be able to prolong it? You won't be. right?
Very
So
true.
this is, you know, this whole thing of we want to be, in fact you just need to understand what is your relationship with the thought.
Yes.
You try to prolong the, in fact now you want to get rid of something, you said I want to prolong it, see how long you can prolong it. Okay, what happens is, what you're saying is also right. What happens is, generally, even though there are all these different thoughts that come and go, we have something called thinking by association. Okay, so thinking by association means that you build on certain facts. Okay. So, for example, something didn't happen your way, so that is a fact. Okay, but you build a story around it. And you say, oh, now this person did not make it happen for me, so this person is so mean. And then, you know, and then, oh, I'm a victim of, you know, people are so mean in this world. And then I'm, you know, poor me, I'm subject to all these, you know. So you keep on building a story around just one event. Okay? So therefore, and you are actually suffering more because of the stories that you created rather than the external events. Okay? So therefore, what we need to actually do is that even you have to see that how, in fact, each thought just comes and goes. You don't need to even do anything for detaching yourself, because even if you want for it to stay, it doesn't stay. Okay? But that tendency, or we have to build on thoughts, okay, that you can check by saying, hey, am I building this story, is it accurate or not? Okay, do I have proper data, or I am just creating my own story with a very partial data? Okay, so this is what you can do. You don't need to detach yourself from thought, you just understand that how at times you are building on certain things which are actually may not be that. So that's where you more tend to remain with facts rather than what? Your addition, your coloring.
No, this was one thing. Now I remember what I wanted to ask. Then you are saying that about the mirrors. You can see that you can see in the mirror whatever you two different kinds of mirrors. Sometimes you see. So then you said that the figures are, you have to find out whether it was right or not. You know, at the first place what you are seeing. And so just I wanted there, if you can give any example of in our, I mean, how do we think and how to identify that kind of, I mean, for example, you know, what you were talking about.
See, what I was saying is with reference to that we are all suffering because we have limited body. No doubt. Okay, and we have limited mind. Mind is an instrument, even though it is an amazing instrument, it's a limited instrument. Okay, it has its own logic. You don't even know what you are going to think 10 minutes from now. Do you know what is your thought? You don't know, right? So you, in fact, it's an instrument. Okay. Now what happens is, a lot of your suffering comes because you have, for you, the nature of I is what? As good as the characteristic of the body, which is highly limited. The nature of I is as good as the thoughts that you have. Okay. So that means your starting point is what? A mistake.
Or limited.
That you have given the attributes of the body and mind, which are actually nothing but objects, to your attributes, and then you are suffering. Okay. So what Lord Krishna is saying is that with that, if you take that as a reality about yourself, which is what? The physical body is I and the mind is I, and keep on what? Doing something to the body and mind. That's what we do. Try to adjust body and mind, okay, to what? Get the freedom. But that starting point itself is wrong. Like the convex and concave mirror. The starting point of what you believe you are itself is wrong. So you have to correct that error.
So this, for this only, any example if you want to, if can you give in the sense, suppose somebody is thinking like this, and I mean
Some
how
story.
the thought comes, some story, I mean, so I'll get, I mean,
Practical life
Yeah.
situation.
yeah,
See,
practical
generally-
life situation.
generally what
Exactly,
happens
this
is that-
is what I wanted, where I can.
See, in fact, all the conclusions that we make. Okay.
Ah.
So, for example, you say that you are depressed.
Ah,
Okay. This is something which is, in fact, when we went to France, we saw the highest selling medicine
and
Is-
for depression.
anti-depression. Okay. So that means that what everybody now recently when we went to France, everybody saw things are not well and they are all depressed, right? So now here, what is the nature of the mistake? Tell me, what is the nature of mistake?
Thinking.
Exactly. There are two mistakes which are made. Okay. One mistake is, as I said, there is one event, but then we build on a story, right? And then we make it so grim. Okay, so that means that they all, everything is seen from a perspective. Let's say in France, when we ask people, oh, there is unemployment and European economies are not doing well, and oh, Europe has lost its competitiveness against Asia. So there is this whole mood. There is no hope, and so there is this whole
Wave of.
yeah, exactly, a story around it. Now France is no longer good, they all want to have new experience. So it builds on and on and on and on, and then they are all finding themselves, and their relationships don't work, and all kinds of multiple problems, and then they feel depressed, right? So that means that one problem is that they are projecting and they are building stories. But the other thing is their I is totally connected to the mind. There are two problems here, right?
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, can I look at the exactly opposite situation?
Yeah.
We in India,
Yeah.
with Narendra Modi, we are
Yes.
identifying on the future is going to be good and hope and optimism, and we are on a high. And I'm at times scared
Different
that
bubble.
keep
Got
our
it.
fingers crossed, nothing should puncture. So that is exactly the
The
opposite
opposite.
side.
Yeah, exactly. See, certain amount of optimism and certain amount is good, right? But if it is disconnected with reality,
Huh.
then there always has to be a reality check.
Huh.
Okay, so this is where we are trying. See, this is very good point, Pallavi. I think this is an extremely important point. Some of these new age literature,
Yeah.
when they talk about, that, oh, there is all these negativities, so then what? Positive thinking. Okay, so positive thinking means what? You see everything in a positive light. Okay, now what happens? When you see everything in positive light, so there are situations which are not, which
Positive.
require, exactly, not positive. Okay, and for example, you are working in a company and the competition has come, and the competition has much better product and probably a lower price. Okay, so but you are into this positive thinking that, oh, everything is fine, everything good will happen to me. Okay, so you are on a trip. And
That's
trip-
what I'm scared of right now.
absolutely, that trip, what it makes you
Get
Disconnected from
overlook certain realities. Okay,
No,
so
and what I'm noticing in me is, say for example, today's Swaminathan's article in Economic Times is pointing out some of the flaws of Narendra Modi government, and I get angry. Everything is going so well, and why this man is nitpicky?
yeah,
The first emotion that comes to my mind is that there is enough of negativism. Now keep quiet.
true.
Give him time to
True. Give
show.
him some time. Exactly.
Give him some time to
Yeah.
show.
True.
So I was just wondering, am I angry because he is talking with a different perspective, or or because I'm wedded to Narendra Modi's argument, I don't know.
See, generally what happens is we move from very negative or very positive. We fail to be with reality. Okay, so this is what, in order to understand Vedanta, you have to become objective. Okay, so that means you see where there are some positive, you see that. You don't always do this nitpicking and find faults. Okay, but you also don't fall into this euphoria, that oh, everything is wonderful, because that particular frame of mind will not enable you to capture certain exactly challenges and deal with those challenges. Okay, so that's why we say we want neither a negative mind nor a positive mind, we want an objective mind. Okay, objectivity is what is, my mind should be able to capture it. Okay, so this is where, in fact, there is a very simple way of understanding this. Okay, so there is this half empty glass, they say negative thinking. Okay, so what is the positive thinking person? Half full. Okay, what is Vedanta? Half full and half empty. This is a fact, right? Both are facts. You can't just ignore one and pay attention only to the other. You have to see the totality, and within the totality, make the best of it.
There's water in the glass.
There is half water in the glass. It is half empty. This is reality. What happens is we do selective data, right? We use selective data and we make conclusions based on that, where we don't see the entirety. So neither negativity works nor positivity works. You just need to capture things as they are. Okay? So this is the type of mind that one requires. Say all that will come in Yoga Shastra. How to become that objective person, so that you can understand this reality about who you are. Okay, yes.
I have a question about this example you gave of I'm depressed.
Yeah.
So would a more accurate terminology be something like, and I'm just making this up, you can tell us what would be accurate, something like my manas is going through a period or is impacted by feelings of depression. Is that more accurate according to Vedanta? What would be the accurate? Because it's a reality
accurate, exactly. See, the accurate is the accurate way of, first you need to understand that you are building up on certain events. Okay, and the minute you become more objective, you check the tendency of mind to create a big story based on certain external events which may not be as bad as what you imagine. Okay, so as a Vedantin, what you will do is make that not just go along and label it by saying it's manas and it's not me. Okay, you try to work on it to make sure that you are seeing the external situation more accurately, okay, and you are not adding more. Okay, having done that, you can then say, even though I can do that, still what is the relationship of I with this thinking process is I am already free from that. That is also a fact. So you have to work at two levels. Just because it is not I doesn't mean that you leave it as it is. And just change the terminology by saying, oh, my mind is going, but I am free from it. That is something which is what we call dissociation. Okay? Because what happens is, the minute you say I'm free from it, that means you have a tendency to not do anything about it.
So what should
ignore
we
it.
say?
So you have to first make that what leads to depression, there is some distorted way of thinking, or there is a build-up. So you have to check that.
Go to the source.
And suppose it is real. Suppose I've lost a loved one.
Yeah.
So I'm in grief, and
Yeah.
it seems very natural.
Yeah.
If you've lost a loved one, there is going to be grief.
Yeah.
At that point, you've checked that yes, it's a real loss. I ought to feel depressed. And then I work at the second level, which says that my manas is...
Okay. Now, let's say you have lost somebody very dear to you, then there are many different things that one needs to understand. Okay. So one thing is that grieving is something which is healthy, right? And it is necessary. Nobody is telling you not to grieve. In fact, because people suppress the grieving, that's where depression comes.
Yeah.
Okay. What you need to do is, when the situation arises and there are these feelings that are occurring, what happens is that instead of recognizing them, we just push them aside. Okay. And because we push them aside, she's a psychologist, maybe she'll know much more than I do. Okay. Because we push them aside, they kind of create this whole, it will vitiate everything. Okay. So that means we very seldom express our emotions without any check. Okay, you have to be able to do that. In fact, the more you express your emotions accurately, that burden will it will burden you much less. Okay? So that means once you express that emotion of grieving will take what, 1 month. After that, nature heals. It's amazing. But if the process of grieving is not complete, it will stay, it will hold you. But if the grieving is done, whenever you feel like crying, cry. It's extremely healthy, it's very important. Then you've processed it, it is gone. You have given it an expression. Okay. Once that expression is given, then you can also say that, based on certain realities that you learn from Vedanta, you can say that, actually what? This Atma is not subject to death. Okay? Bodies come and go. That's okay. This is the nature of, this is how things are arranged. Okay? So that means you bring in another reality. It's not a imagination. You bring in facts, right? So that you can deal with events, more in an accurate manner. So neither you deny the emotions, nor you stay only at the level of emotions, because in life you have to understand a lot more than what is what. That's why you need to equip your buddhi with proper understanding, so you can see the situation in its totality and not get carried away with only one little perspective and get more right.
So first check it and then process it and then
then
get away.
And it will automatically go. Really.
No, in the example which he gave, in that case, we know reality. But even after knowing reality,
Yeah.
emotions
Exactly.
take over.
Of course, this is what I say. Mind is an instrument, okay, and it will have certain emotions. What you need to understand is that let those emotions be expressed. Why not?
Done.
Don't be afraid of the sorrow. Sorrow is part of Ishvara's creation. If you
here we know reality.
One second. One thing is an emotion. The second thing is a lot of build-up that we do. That build-up you can check. The emotion is something that you need to acknowledge, and
You need to emote.
you need to emote.
Absolutely.
You need to
release.
emote.
Yeah, there are now rasa that they talk about.
Yeah.
There is no other way. You need to emote. Don't be afraid of your sadness. I will give you my example. Okay, it's interesting because let me not give my example. I'll give another example of
Now the
somebody
mind
else.
is curious.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I'll give you another example. Again in Bangkok, there was this person who had gone to Europe on a trip, and then he had a heart attack, and then he passed away. So these kids who are like 16, 17 years old, okay, and they are completely devastated, okay. Because imagine a father, they were like in 40s, 50s or whatever, right? In another country and gone for a business trip and gone, right? And these kids were devastated, and the Pandit comes and tells them, oh, Atma to Amar hai, right? And if you cry now, your soul, that the departed soul will watch and will be very upset, so you should not cry. And the kids were like in a conflict because they are having a lot of sadness. They are devastated, but there is a message that, giving some big, some lecture which they are not ready for right now, right? And the second thing is, creating this fear that if you
Cry.
express your
Then
emotion,
soul will-
that person will be upset. When then one of the persons was coming to our classes, so he said, "Can you come and meet them?" We didn't know who they were, so we went and we said, and when they were talking to us and they were expressing how much grief they felt, I said, obviously, if this is not going to make you sad,
What else?
What else?
What
else?
else?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that point was a complete release for them. Okay? Because I validated what that
You are
pain.
feeling is right.
Exactly.
You have to.
Absolutely. If you deny that feeling and if you don't express it, it will stay with you for rest of your life and distort everything. This is how people become, people get heart attacks, people get after the death of somebody, and if they have not grieved,
Yes.
okay, it will all affect either mentally or what? Physically. It will come up. So emoting is part of, please understand, healthy living, objective living. Because your emotions, if you are not supposed to feel emotions, emotions would not be given to you. But that they are given to you means that you have to use them appropriately. But once you grieve, what is important, what you have to understand is, if you have done it effectively, then it will not lead to depression. Depression happens because you have not grieved, suppressed. Right? Suppressed emotions then give this sense of some dissatisfaction, and that carries on, and it's exactly. It is seen in the different situations. It is self-defeating messages that we give to ourselves. So it is all a result of undealt with emotions. Okay, so that means even though emotions are not I, which is a fact, I have no way but to deal with those emotions accurately or appropriately if I were to understand even this reality, which is that I am much bigger than my emotions. Okay? There is no shortcut. You can't bypass emotions. This is why we say, if the buddhi has to understand this reality of who you are, which is, it is limitless. The buddhi cannot be a projecting buddhi. It cannot be a buddhi which is not able to handle things. Okay? It has to be a buddhi which is well cultivated, quite evolved, in touch with reality, able to handle things. Okay? Then it can become what? A place where this mission can stay. Otherwise, it is simple. It is like me talking about E is equal to mc square. What is my understanding of E is equal to mc square compared to a scientist's understanding of E is equal to mc square? You can easily say Atma is free from all of that, but it doesn't do anything. Okay? So this is why all this instrument, which is this what? Emotions, buddhi, even buddhi. In fact, right now, when I'm talking to you, you're using your buddhi to understand. Okay? So that means buddhi, even though buddhi is not I, it is a faculty which is given to you to understand what Vedanta is saying. So you have no choice but to sharpen your buddhi. Because logic is used all the time to make you see certain facts. So you have to be a logical person. You have to be able to see certain, and you have to be able to see fallacies in thinking. Okay? So that means it's not I, is not a simple thing, oh you just reject. Even though it is not I, through this instrument you will understand this, what is the nature of I. So you need to what? Prepare it. That is a very, very important part of Vedanta. That whole human growth is all about cultivating that faculty that we have. Yes? Have I answered your question? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So what we are trying to do here is it's true that when people start first to know Vedanta, they change their vocabulary. Okay, so before they said I'm going, then they said oh the body is going. Okay, then I'm eating, then they said oh the body is eating. We are not talking about changing our vocabulary, right? We are just talking about what? Understanding where is my I put at and it actually doesn't belong there. Okay, that's all. It's only cognitive. It's not about changing your vocabulary. Okay. Otherwise, what? And also because it is not I doesn't mean that you just have to be indifferent to it. That is also extremely important. Because that's an instrument. That is the most valuable instrument that you have in this world. And you have to use it to understand the reality. Because that is the only way you can understand reality, through this instrument. Okay. So now it is almost 7. Okay. So that means now all this, which is very sophisticated, okay, is not I. Then the next question is, then what is I?
Who am I?
Yeah, who am I? Okay, so that is the next inquiry. If all this you are not, neither all the different conditions of the body, nor different faculties of mind, antakarana, which are very sophisticated, okay, if all this is something which is an object, then what is the nature of subject? Which observes different conditions of the body and different conditions of the mind which come and go. So that is the next class. Okay.
You have ended with a,
Question
a
mark.
question mark where it's
Thought.
like those serial episodes.
Who am I?
This is what is
Something
Vedanta.
I know,
Yeah.
it just pulls you with the
It,
suspense क्या है?
yeah. What is, yeah,
So
exactly.
we'll
Can't
start
afford
thinking
to
from
miss
now.
it.
Exactly. So what is this I then? Okay.
Next Tuesday we'll be having.
Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti